Hey folks, so per tradition, I am doing a post-event vlog for DreamHack Leipzig 2017, which I just got back from very late last night. Lots of travel, which is why I didn't put anything together as soon as I got home. But now it's the next day that I'm recording and posting this up, and after a bit of sleep, I decided to put a little bit of something together. I also did do a pre-event vlog you can check out. Some of the information in that video might be a bit irrelevant now, because a lot of it was just predictions and previewing of the teams. You can check that out if you want, but you definitely maybe check out at least the first 5 to 10 minutes of that video, because I did talk about some personal stuff, some things I was looking forward to and maybe was somewhat nervous about. And so I might reference some of that in this video. So maybe for context, you might want to check that out, like the first 5 or 10 minutes of that preview video I did for Leipzig. But nonetheless, let's get into it. Most of this will just be personal stuff, but I will talk on the teams a bit at the end just to kind of give a review and just some thoughts on the future for those teams, but nothing too specific, nothing in really great detail. So coming into the event, again, it was really cool to get to work with DreamHack the first time. It's obviously a tournament organizer that I'm very familiar with from watching their events for research purposes or just for entertainment, what have you. And so it was cool to finally get to work with them on something. Looking back at the event and comparing it to what I've done in the past, outside of E-League Season 1, this is probably the smoothest event I've ever been a part of. Like, they just really had everything on point, but from an admin perspective to a production perspective to just, you know, that it was a great tournament. The stage looked amazing. The crowd was really great. Just everything about it was really, really cool. All the people working behind the scenes were fantastic. And yeah, it was just really smooth. I mean, we started on time every time pretty much. I think sometimes we even started early because we accelerated the schedule because some matches finished earlier than expected. The only delays we really seemed to have was the one delay because Rogue left the server early in a round, and that wound up just being hilarious, so I think that was totally worth a little bit of a delay. And then I guess the grand finals got delayed just a small amount to give Big a little bit of a break after their semifinal match before the grand final started, and so we just extended the death segment a bit. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it ran really smooth and just everything was on point, and so it was really cool to have an event like that where there's nothing to worry about. You just do your casting, enjoy yourself, and that's pretty much it. Also, the reception of the event seemed to be very positive just throughout the community. I saw a lot of Reddit threads and posts on Twitter and such that seemed to be really positive about the event. So it seems like people really did enjoy it. We had a pretty good amount of viewership as well, all things considered. Particularly the grand final did really well viewership-wise, I thought. So yeah, I mean, I think it was just a great tournament all in all, from an inside and outside perspective, from what I could tell from reading and seeing things that were posted out there. Coming to the event, I mentioned this in the pre-event vlog, I was a little bit nervous about doing live match commentary again because I haven't done it in such a long time offline. You know, the last time I commentated LAN was back in April for the TiVo Gfinity event, which, funny enough, I casted that event with Meta, so it's like it comes full circle. We wound up casting together again at this event. And so a little bit nervous about that, so to speak, not because I wouldn't be knowledgeable or anything like that. It was more of just what I stumble on my own words and, you know, just different things like that when you're a little bit rusty on doing a lot of casting. Again, I mean, you draw from the same source material to be a color commentator as an analyst, so they're very similar in that regard. The main difference is you just focus on different topics. So, for example, I did this video where I talked about building your knowledge in CSGO, and I talked about all the different source material you can use, like demos or HLTV or interviews or news articles or what have you. And then from that, you can draw information about how a team plays, what's their style, how a player plays, what's their style, recent form, recent results, you know, the map pool, pick ban history, you know, go into detail about head-to-head matchup statistics or just specific tactics a team likes to use, you know, what type of strategy do they implement, all these different things. And then you just talk about a player's history, you know, a team's history, you know, just identification type stuff. And so the difference between the two is really just you focus specifically as an analyst more on the identification of a team or a player, or more on the history of a team or a player, or their head-to-head track record, or their recent results in map pool. Whereas in the actual broadcast itself, you're focusing a lot more on the strategy and tactics, and then occasionally you're bringing in maybe notes about a player or a team as it becomes relevant, or as maybe you have a slow moment or a delay or something, you need to fill a little bit of time. Maybe then you get to some similar discussions an analyst would. But yeah, so the point is since I study all those things, it's easy for me to like have the knowledge I need to, no matter which position I take up. So that wasn't really the issue. It was just whether or not I was going to have a smooth broadcast, you know, not saying, you know, silly things, not having awkward pauses, just things that sometimes happen when your mind's not quite sharp for casting. I haven't done it for a while, but I think all things considered, things went really well. I mean, working with Metis is great. He's a phenomenal talent. He's an incredible play-by-play commentator, incredibly nice dude as well, very down-to-earth type guy. It certainly helps that me and Metis are really good friends outside of the server. We talk pretty much every day, I think, to some degree, whether it be me hanging out in his stream or just us chatting on Skype or what have you. We have a pretty close relationship, I think. He's probably one of the people I talk to the most out of the broadcast talent and the scene. And so I think that certainly helps. It's just us being good friends outside of the game. We talk about a lot of stuff, have some heart-to-hearts here and there. So that certainly helped. And he's a great guy. I've always thought that Metis is kind of like next in line to be a big name in CSGO. Like, obviously you have the 3 big casting duos, and then you have all the regulars on the analyst desk type people. But I really think Metis is like this next guy to really keep an eye on. And don't get me wrong, there's also a lot of other good play-by-play commentators in CSGO. Again, this has been talked about a lot from different people, that the talent pool is pretty deep when it comes to broadcasting talent in CSGO. And so obviously you can't include all of them because there's so many of them. But in situations like this where you have a bunch of tournaments going on, that's one of the ways in which some of this broadcast talent can get out there that's outside of maybe the 3 big duos and all the big analyst names, so to speak. And so, yeah, Metis definitely does a great job. And so even outside of just being friends, working with him is fantastic because he's just really easy to work with. He, does good bringing in his color commentator and using his color commentator. And just like I try to help him play to his strengths, he helps you play to your strengths. And so that's always really good when you have that kind of mutual understanding and how to work with one another. And it usually makes things go really smooth. I know Metis put out a post-event video, and he was talking a little bit about casting with me and talking about, as he's mentioned several times, his desire to have a consistent duo partner and kind of his thoughts about what they were casting with me, or at least his initial reaction. Again, we both need to go back and watch the VODs and kind of get a better understanding of how things really went. But so far, we initially thought it went well, and the community seemed to really like it. I saw some real positive things posted about the commentary that we did together on the Reddit. I mean, a lot of the posts I saw on Reddit were just, in general, good things about DreamHack Leipzig, but sometimes there were comments that focused specifically on the commentary that were really positive, and so that's really cool, obviously. Didn't really see anything negative. I mean, I guess maybe there was a little bit here and there, but nothing that was substantial. The overwhelming voice seemed to be positive is the point, so definitely appreciate the support and such. But yeah, definitely I would be open to being a duo partner with him in the future if that's something that he wanted to do. I think that I wouldn't mind doing that. I know it was kind of a tough call, though, because, I mean, I had built myself up being an analyst last year. I mean, I more than quadrupled my following last year on Twitter, and I really was building some great momentum. And all that was off the back of being an analyst on Analyst Desk between E-League and Gfinity and all this other good stuff. But yeah, I would certainly be willing to perhaps move in a different direction and do commentary like longer term if, in fact, Metis wanted to duo up or something like that. I think that, though, for Metis, it just depends on what he wants to do. Again, there are going to be no hard feelings for me no matter what he decides. I wish him all the best. He's a good friend of mine. And again, there are obstacles, even if we did want to duo together, such as us living in different countries that are very far apart from each other, and whether or not you can get tournaments to hire you together consistently. There's all those different obstacles in the way anyway. He might be better off finding like another European commentator that he can duo with, that maybe he'll have an easier time making sure that they can get hired together and such. But yeah, also I think in an ideal world, his casting partner would be Moses, in my opinion. I think that would make a lot of sense just because Moses is already a really well-established name, particularly with the analysts he does with E-League. But that's also the reason why maybe he couldn't do it with Metis. Maybe he's still going to be doing E-League analysis going forward. He's busy doing other things. Maybe he can't commit to being a consistent partner with Metis. But obviously the Metis-Moses duo would be a good one. Moses, obviously, a great color commentator and analyst type guy to be with someone like Metis. And I know that they're also good friends. And they've worked together in the past, and it went well. So maybe that's a thing that could happen. And I think Launders is another name that Metis enjoys casting with. That's also a phenomenal color caster. So my point is, he has options out there. I certainly would be up to it if he was up to it. But again, if something else comes up, then that would be totally understandable. But at least for this event, I got to work with him, and it was great. I know the production crew enjoyed it. Y'all seem to enjoy it. So yeah, definitely was really fun to do. And I certainly had a blast. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any feedback, definitely feel free to send it our way. I'm sure he'd appreciate it just as much as I would. And so that's going to be about it when I talk about commentary. Again, I think I started off kind of rusty the first day, but I think once we found a rhythm, it went really well. It was a little bit hard for me to focus purely on color throughout the tournament because there were certain teams we casted where there was really no information out there, like a Big, like a QWERTY, even Vega Squadron, and the information out there was very scarce because really I had only saw them at the E-League qualifier. Then you had Fnatic Academy coming in with the stand-in. And so, yeah, it was just kind of hard to focus purely on color. But when I was commentating teams like Flipside and Heroic and LDLC, some of these teams that have had some a good amount of matches under their belts, even Rogue, I was able to kind of focus a bit more on color and positioning and setups and what they like to do, what type of style they have to have. Like LDLC, like really rigid executes is what they're known for, really coordinated, like high utility usage stuff. And then you have a team like Heroic, who's a little bit looser, a little bit more mixed between default and fast-paced executes, but typically a more aggressive team. And then you had Flipside, who's like the old school slow default, really methodical, really like late round stuff. So I got to kind of explore those different things with you guys. But yeah, again, there were situations where I was only able to cover like real basic stuff. And again, there's always situations, that's why you can't be just pure color 100%. Is that sometimes if you're passing back and forth, you get stuck in a moment where it's a little bit hard to pass back to your play-by-play, and you kind of have to just roll with it. Like, for example, that Legia 1v3 clutch on Train and that quadruple overtime game against Vega Squadron, I wound up casting that moment, which was like a pretty big clutch in the tournament. It really was what helped Big win that match and move on to the semifinals the next day. We thought the round was over when Legia was in that 1v3, and so I was just kind of doing some post-round color, basically, and then all of a sudden he gets a kill and he's rolling into a clutch, and I just kind of rolled with it. But mostly I tried to focus on letting Metis do play-by-play and play to his strengths, and like I said, me play to mine, and like I said, I think it worked out pretty well, and so I'll leave it at that. Outside of my actual commentary of the tournament, it was cool just hanging out and meeting everyone. Again, like for me, especially when you're not at that many events compared to others, it's kind of like a family reunion a bit when you get to meet up with people that you've either not met before, but you know really well from talking together in the community, to maybe people you do know but you haven't seen in a very long time. Like for instance, I hadn't seen Lurpus in like 4 or 5 years, but obviously we talk online to a decent bit, and I follow his work, so it was cool to be able to connect with him again. And then when it comes to Red Eye and Sponge, the other guys that were on the analyst desk, I mean, I had known Sponge when he was a player on Renegades, we had met at E-League and different things like that. We've talked online a bit, so cool seeing him again. And then Red Eye was someone I've never met before, but obviously he's been a guy that's been around a long time, and I've known his work, particularly in the Counter-Strike franchise, but also even in StarCraft 2. I used to see him doing that because I used to watch StarCraft 2 a lot back in the day, during Wings of Liberty. And so, yeah, it was really cool to see, someone like that who's obviously very well known in the esports industry and who's been around the block for many, many years, and someone I respect. And I even got to do a desk segment with Red Eye and Sponge because Lurpus, the way his travel itinerary went, he wasn't able to make it in time for the opening of the show on day one. So I got to do a segment with Sponge and Red Eye, which is a hell of a lot of fun to open the show and get back on the desk, familiar territory, so to speak. And so that was really cool working with them, and they were great guys. Also meeting Risk and Blue. Risk is someone I have known since Counter-Strike Source days. Never met in person, though. So that goes way back, in fact, like to, many years ago. Cool to finally meet him. I know he's trying to get back into commentary a bit, and so it's cool to see him at this event, getting a chance to do that. And then Blue is someone I've worked with a little bit online, like back before he joined ESCA and ESL. And then I've even done some stuff with them for like Star Ladder, random stuff online, I think like last year or the year before last. I have no idea. Anyway, but someone I'm obviously very familiar with from watching, Pro League. And cool to finally meet him as well. Really, really nice dude. And then Paula. Paula is someone I haven't met before, I don't think, before this event. And he was really cool to talk to and hang out with as well. So yeah, just all the talent was great. Even meeting some of the guys at DreamHack, like Adam Osberg, the producer, like Mark Winter, who runs things, like even our talent manager, Mia. Just everybody we came across was really, really cool people, really nice group of folks. And again, I think they ran a fantastic show, one of the best I've ever been a part of as far as how it was run. And then talking to players is obviously always fun, particularly the Heroic guys are people I've known pretty well because I've met them at Northern Arena events at Toronto and Montreal. And so I developed kind of a good friendship with them through those 2 events at the end of last year. And so mostly Valda and Madi, I guess, are the 2 guys I talked to the most from that team. But yeah, we even sat together during the second day of the tournament. before the semifinals because they got that day off because they were first out of their group. And so we were hanging out and just, talking Counter-Strike while watching games together and talking tactics and stuff. And even talking about their team's tactics specifically. I'd ask them questions like why they do a certain thing or why not try this. And even they were like, oh, maybe we should try that. So it was kind of neat, but they were explaining to me different things, like why they changed certain things around, because when Nikolai came on the team, they've adjusted some roles and stuff. So, yeah, it's just really cool getting that kind of insight, talking to teams and talking to players and kind of getting their perspective on things. It helps me be a more knowledgeable color commentator and analyst that way when I get to be able to get that type of insight. So, yeah, really, really cool stuff with that as well. And then obviously we get to hang out, after the days are over. Like the last day we had like a cool little dinner with everyone from the broadcast talent and some DreamHack staff and had some drinks afterwards and stuff. And so, yeah, it's always just kind of fun, that social aspect to the tournaments as well as the tournament itself. And so that's really about it from my personal standpoint. It was fun to get to do another event. Like I said, I think I built up a good bit of momentum last year. Kind of shot myself in the foot at the end of the year. Won't get into that in detail. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, then don't worry about it. But if you do, I did address that in my preview video for the tournament, my pre-event vlog for Leipzig. Like I said, I've already kind of publicly addressed it and admitted it was a mistake and yada, yada, yada. So I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, it's cool to get into 2017, get an event, right in the first month of the year. And hopefully I can use that to kind of build some momentum again. Hopefully I can work with DreamHack again in the future. Again, if Metis wants to duo up in the future, that'd be great. If not, whether I do casting with other people or whether I go back to doing analysis desk work or whether I do some type of mixture of both would be perfectly fine. I quite enjoy doing either one. I'm pretty open-minded toward that sort of thing. It's not like I have to do one role and that's all I'm happy with. I'm happy just being a part of this community, a part of, being a part of these tournaments and such. And so, yeah, it was great to kick off 2017 at an event like this one that I thought was, ran really well, was really well received. And thanks for all the support and stuff that I got from different people throughout the event and all the new followers I gained and all that crazy stuff. Just before I turn off the video, though, just very quickly want to talk about the teams for just a couple of minutes. First of all, congrats to Flipside for winning the tournament. Finally won a title outside of, local CIS stuff. Really looked impressive throughout the tournament. Obviously, they still had that old school, slow, methodical style Blade likes to play. So you don't really see them look too different tactically, though I think they did add some stuff. They try to change the pace a bit more, so that's nice that they have change of pace options. Particularly impressed with this electronic guy who's very young. His rifle looks strong. He was the MVP of the tournament for me. So it's cool to see new young upcoming talent come into this team, because again, I think Flipside's biggest struggle has been having consistent firepower, and so bringing in electronic really seems to add to that for them, alongside a guy like World Edit, who's a very flashy opper. And Waylander also played pretty good at this tournament, so if they can keep good form on some of these players, they could maybe cause a little bit of a ruckus at the E-League Major, but certainly cool to at least see them get a title here. For Big, this was pretty good for them for a LAN debut, I'd imagine. I mean, they made it all the way to the finals on home soil, their first LAN event together as a 5, so that's not a bad run. I know they wanted to win for the hometown crowd, but still a deep run, and so still something to be happy about, I think. It's a good starting point for them, I think. Tabson, consistent and impressive as usual, so that's good that he's still, kind of performing in that capacity. This Kiev Opera guy, very flashy Opera, very fast firing speed, very fun to watch. Let's just see how he develops, I guess, is going to be the thing. And then when it comes to Nex, again, kind of the same pattern I noticed in the past, where he'll have really good games early in tournaments and in smaller tournaments particularly. But then when he gets to the really big game, a deep playoff run, seems to go a little bit missing. And I think that's still an obstacle he needs to work on. But certainly throughout the tournament, he looked impressive. There was mini games or mini rounds where he just looked nuts. So you can see the skill is certainly there. It seems like it's just kind of a mental hurdle he has to kind of get past when it comes to playing well in the big games or the deep playoff matches. And so, yeah, that's a team certainly to keep an eye on. I think it'll be fun to see what that team can do going forward. Other teams that wind up making it to the top 4, first one will be Heroic to talk about. Obviously, they're probably going to be disappointed they didn't make the final of this tournament. They were certainly one of the favorites to make the final, if not win the whole thing. And so I think that they'll certainly walk away from this a bit sour. But, I mean, again, there's still a lot of good firepower on this team, particularly Valda and Nikolai. Valda's already, well proven himself. I think the community pretty much understands that this guy's a talent to keep an eye on. But even this Nikolai guy, 18 years old, he's looking really good with rifles as well, man. He looks pretty sick. So there's definitely some firepower on this team. I think they run pretty well strategically also. I think they have a good balance of being aggressive and being able to play default. I think that there's I think there's like two big factors here, though. Like one or two things is going to happen for this team. Either A, someone like Valda and even maybe someone like Nikolai might get scooped up. I mean, you got to think that if Astralis or North ever need to make a move at some point down the road, or in the next like 3 to 6 months, if things don't go well with their current lineups, that someone like Valda in particular is going to be a prime target to try to pick up. But even maybe international teams might be interested in some of these guys. Like, who's to say one day if FaZe wants to make a move that Valda's not a potential attractive candidate or something like that. So it's going to be about, can they maintain the talent they currently have, is going to be point one for Heroic to continue to be strong going forward. And then point two is I feel like if they can, I still think they're like one roster move away from being like a serious top 10 contender in the world. I think they'll always hover around the top 15 to 20 of the world, and I think that occasionally you will see them have good tournaments. And maybe, Nikolai and Val, if they keep working like this, maybe this team will get stronger. I think Mahdi's also a pretty solid rifler for this team. Don't get me wrong. I think in his own right, he's an intelligent player and like, a good like third best player to have, so to speak, if Nikolai and Valley are really going to be your stars. But yeah, just something to me feels like maybe one more move has to happen before they really can climb the ladder together as a team. They've been together for quite some time now with this five, at least 3 to 4 months. So there could be an idea of maybe they need to make a change. I'm not really sure. And then LDLC is the other top 14 that came out of this. Again, hard to really read them too much because you don't know what's going to happen, if they're going to be part of the French Shuffle. A guy like XMS particularly impresses me. Very young, 19-year-old rifler. He might be someone to keep an eye on going forward. Toineus Op is still, pretty decent coming out the French-Belgian scene. Again, same tactical prowess that Existence has always had. And he individually played really well at this tournament as well, to be fair. So this is about where I thought they would land. Like I predicted Flipside and Heroic to be in the finals, and I thought that LDLC would be in a semis, and they made it that far. So performed as expected, I guess. But just got to see if they stick together or whether or not are part of some type of shuffle going on in the French scene in the future. Obviously, you have the Dream Team coming up that people are rumoring, but what happens with the players that are left behind, and can guys like XMS, Toy New Existence become a part of the mix with those people that are left behind to make a second team, so to speak? So certainly that's kind of where to keep the eye at. Outside of that, just briefly talking some of the other teams at the tournament. I mean, at least Vegas show that they aren't one-hit wonders. That NIP game on Cash from the E-League Major Qualifier isn't all they have. They do have some players who are pretty skilled, particularly Mir, but also Kashander and Chopper looked pretty good throughout this tournament. So that was good to see that they could still be competitive even outside of that E-League qualifier. It wasn't just completely a fluke. There might be something there. We need to see more play still. Let's see. With Rogue, obviously a big high, doing well in winning the global challenge, to now kind of a low at this tournament, going out as one of the last place teams. Same with QWERTY. I think that their level is probably somewhere in the middle then between global challenge and what we saw at this event. We'll have to see how it develops over time. With QWERTY, that LAN debut, not sure what that team's going to be about, to be honest. I mean, I know they weren't together that long before the tournament. This is the only official results they really had, so it's still way too early to even call what that team's going to be like. I do kind of wonder if they have enough firepower on that team. I mean, I know Micah Lely, they're going to kind of build around him and his op, but I'm curious to see what other firepower is really there. I feel like I saw Adder playing pretty well at this tournament. I remember him being pretty decent on Torpedo, so maybe he can be like another guy, but again, just not really sure what that team's really made up of. Fnac Academy. This team, not really sure. I mean, a lot of young talent in this team, sure, and they were using a stand-in, Jays Walkings, who might be a permanent member for JZR going forward, I guess. I thought he actually played pretty well. Plessin looked good at times. Botten looked good at times. I thought that they played a pretty good tournament, to be fair. I mean, when you look at it, they did okay. I mean, I don't know what really to say. I mean, they even challenged LDLC quite well to almost make a semis. So that was definitely good stuff out of them in that big best-of-3 series. So there's certainly maybe some younger talent to keep an eye on going forward. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the event. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely follow, subscribe for more content. I'll be trying to put some more YouTube videos out going forward. And so yeah, thanks so much for all the support. See you next time.